Be me, 38, software architect, live in a quiet, upscale HOA community. My home is my sanctuary, a meticulously maintained haven I built over a decade. I take pride in the crisp lines of my landscaping, the perfectly manicured lawn, the privacy of my backyard abutting a serene, protected wetland buffer. My neighbors are generally decent folk, a mix of old money and successful professionals, all respectful of boundaries and bylaws. Peace reigns. Life is good. Be not me, Mrs. Henderson, mid-50s, new money, moved into the grandest house on the street last year. Immediately, she started a campaign of what she called beautification, but what everyone else recognized as an attempt to assert dominance. She talks down to people, flaunts her wealth, and treats the HOA board like her personal subservient committee. She also has a habit of acting first and asking for forgiveness, which she rarely grants later. Her latest pet project is a Zen meditation garden for which she has grandiose plans, all centered on what she insists is her backyard. Problem is, her backyard ends where the common area begins, and that common area is a protected buffer zone. The first signs of trouble were subtle. A landscaper hired by Mrs. Henderson started clearing brush from the common area behind her property. Not much, just enough to open up a sliver of the view. I noticed it, as did a few other residents. We brought it up at an HOA meeting. Mrs. Henderson, not yet chairwoman but already acting like it, dismissed concerns with a wave of her hand. Just tidying up, dear. It was an eyesore, improves everyone's property values. A few meek voices spoke up about the buffer zone. She stared them down. Nonsense, it's just weeds, unsightly. The board, still comprised of a few older members easily intimidated, let it slide. That was interaction one. A warning shot I regret not taking more seriously. Then came the accent lighting. Without any architectural review board approval, her crew installed a series of blinding floodlights along her entire back perimeter, pointing directly outwards. These weren't subtle landscape lights. They were stadium-grade beacons that illuminated the common area and, more importantly, half of my own backyard at night. My meticulously curated stargazing patio was now bathed in an obnoxious glare. I politely emailed her, citing the HOA bylaws regarding exterior lighting and common courtesy. Her response, sent via her assistant, was brief and cutting. Mrs. Henderson believes the increased visibility enhances security for all residents. It is not up for discussion. The board, now mostly her appointees or people too spineless to challenge her, echoed her sentiment at the next meeting. Security is paramount, the new chairwoman, a close friend of Mrs. Henderson, declared. It's a gift to the community. Interaction 2, a direct assault on my peace of mind and property. The arrogance was palpable. She didn't just ignore the rules, she twisted them into a perverse benefit for the community, all while enhancing her own grand vision. The real breaking point arrived with the groundbreaking for her Zen garden. Not content with mere lights, she had decided on an expansive, multi-tiered koi pond and waterfall feature, complete with a stone gazebo. Diggers arrived. Within a week, a trench deeper than any backyard pool was carved out, stretching a good 15 feet beyond her actual property line and into the protected wetland buffer. They were bringing in boulders, pouring concrete, and clearly building something that was going to be permanent and massive. This wasn't just tidying. This was a full-scale, unapproved construction project sprawling across common property and into an environmentally sensitive zone. I confronted her directly this time. Her landscaper was on site, supervising a bulldozer. I walked over, my heart rate steady but my blood simmering. "Mrs. Henderson," I began, my voice calm. "What exactly is going on here?" She turned, a triumphant smirk on her face. "Oh, hello, neighbor. Isn't it wonderful? My Zen garden is finally taking shape. It's going to be the envy of the entire neighborhood." "It's going beyond your property line," I stated, pointing to the surveyor stakes that her crew had clearly ignored, if not removed. "And it's in the buffer zone. You haven't had this approved by the Architectural Review Board, nor have you obtained city permits for this scale of excavation or construction in a protected area." Her smirk tightened. "Oh, please. Technicalities. This little patch of weeds. It's hardly a protected area. And the HOA board has given me full verbal approval for my vision. As for permits, my contractors are handling everything. You worry too much." "Verbal approval means nothing," I retorted. "The bylaws are clear. Any permanent structure, any modification to common areas requires written board approval, architectural review, and often city permits. This is a massive violation." She let out a dismissive laugh. "Honestly, you engineers and your rules. Don't you think I have better things to do than fill out endless paperwork for my own property? It's my garden on my estate. Besides, what are you going to do? Complain to the board? They're on my side. I practically run it now." Her words hung in the air, dripping with contempt and absolute certainty. My peace of mind, my view, the value of my property, the integrity of the HOA, and the very ecosystem of our community were all being trampled underfoot by her unchecked arrogance. That was the moment. The line was crossed. My peace became her problem. I stopped reacting. I started plotting. My initial anger quickly cooled into a dangerous, methodical patience. I was a software architect. I understood systems, vulnerabilities, and how to exploit them with precision. Mrs. Henderson thought she ran the HOA. Fine. I would run the system that governed it. First, documentation. Every day, for the next 3 weeks, I meticulously photographed the ongoing construction. Not just simple pictures, but wide-angle shots showing the encroachment, close-ups of specific materials, and overhead views from my drone, cross-referencing her property plat map with the expanding footprint of her monstrosity. Each photo was time-stamped and geotagged. I compiled a spreadsheet of all communications, my ignored emails, the HOA meeting minutes where her projects were discussed, but never formally approved in writing, the bylaws themselves with relevant clauses highlighted. Next, I delved into the HOA's archives. I discovered something interesting. The previous chairwoman, before Mrs. Henderson's friend took over, had a strict policy of requiring 3 board member signatures for any architectural approval concerning common areas, beyond the standard ARB process. This was a failsafe, a safeguard against exactly this kind of overreach. Mrs. Henderson's current board had conveniently ignored this, citing a new, much vaguer procedure. But the old bylaws, still technically active until formally amended, which they hadn't been, had this clause explicitly. Loophole 1. Then, the external agencies. I quietly contacted a certified land surveyor. For a fee, he restaked the boundary lines, confirming Henderson's construction was indeed 15 feet into common ground. I paid for an environmental consultant to assess the impact on the wetland buffer. His report was damning. Disruption of native flora, potential contamination from pond chemicals, erosion risk. I spoke to the city's planning and zoning department. They confirmed that any permanent structure of that size required permits, and excavation in a buffer zone was a strict no-go without special environmental impact assessments. Mrs. Henderson had none of it. Violation after violation. My masterpiece of a plan wasn't just about making her stop. It was about making her pay. Big. I focused on building an undeniable case that would hit her financially and publicly, leveraging every applicable rule, from obscure HOA clauses to city and state environmental regulations. I knew she had started the project without any formal approvals, betting on her influence. The longer the construction continued, the more money she sank into it, the sweeter the revenge. I waited until the concrete was poured, the koi pond liner installed, the gazebo frame erected. She was hundreds of thousands of dollars deep. That's when I moved. I scheduled a special, open forum HOA meeting, citing urgent matters concerning common property integrity and community compliance. I made sure to explicitly state that all property owners were encouraged to attend, and that the topic would be violations of established community covenants. I sent the notice via certified mail to every homeowner, not just email, bypassing Mrs. Henderson's attempts to filter information. She arrived, radiating annoyance, flanked by her 2 loyal board members. She probably expected me to rant about her floodlights again. She was wrong. The meeting started. After the usual pleasantries, I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just laid out facts. Good evening, everyone. I've called this meeting to address a serious and ongoing issue that affects every homeowner in this community. I projected a slideshow onto the wall. The first image was Mrs. Henderson's property plat. The second, a drone shot, perfectly overlaid, showing the koi pond and gazebo clearly extending into the common area. Mrs. Henderson immediately interjected, a dismissive wave of her hand. "Oh, for heaven's sake, not this again. It's my garden, dear, and it's nearly finished. It's beautiful." "Indeed, it is nearly finished, Mrs. Henderson," I replied, a slight smile playing on my lips. "And that is precisely the problem." I continued, methodically presenting my evidence. "On your screen, you see the official survey markers, clearly showing the boundary. And here," I clicked to a new slide, "is the city's environmental buffer zone map, indicating that over 15 feet of your construction is within a protected wetland area. Here are the city's zoning ordinances requiring permits for any structure exceeding X square feet and for any excavation in a buffer zone. Mrs. Henderson, you have obtained none of these." She bristled. "My contractors assured me everything was handled, and the board approved my vision." "Did they, Mrs. Henderson?" I clicked again. "Here are the HOA bylaws, Article 7, Section B. Any permanent structure or significant landscape modification on common property requires written approval from the Architectural Review Board and the signatures of no fewer than 3 active HOA board members. The minutes from the alleged verbal approval meeting show only 2 board members present, one of whom was your appointed chairwoman, and no written record of approval." Her face began to pale. Her loyal board members shifted uncomfortably. "Furthermore," I pressed, "here is the report from a certified environmental consultant detailing the damage to the wetland ecosystem. And here, a statement from the City Planning Department, confirming that a stop work order will be issued tomorrow morning for all unpermitted construction, along with a notice of violation that carries substantial daily fines." The room was silent, save for the faint hum of the projector. Other residents, initially hesitant, were now openly staring at Mrs. Henderson, their faces a mix of shock and dawning realization. Mrs. Henderson's voice was a strained whisper. This is ridiculous. A personal vendetta. I'll sue you." "You're welcome to try, Mrs. Henderson," I said, my voice cutting through the silence. "But I think you'll find it quite difficult to sue someone for enforcing established law and community covenants, especially when those laws protect the value and environment of everyone else's property." I leaned forward slightly. "The HOA, under its current leadership, has been negligent in enforcing these rules. That negligence has allowed a multi-$100,000 illegal construction to be built on common property. The cost of remediation, including dismantling the structure, restoring the buffer zone, and paying the accumulated city fines, will be astronomical." Her eyes widened, finally comprehending the scale of her loss. "The cost? What are you talking about?" "Under Article 9, Section C, costs incurred by the HOA due to a member's unauthorized alteration of common property shall be fully borne by the offending member. That includes the legal fees I anticipate the HOA will incur to protect itself from city action, and the substantial costs of demolition and environmental restoration. And given the magnitude of the violation, Mrs. Henderson, the board, once properly constituted, will have no choice but to assess those costs directly against your property." Her arrogance shattered, replaced by a look of sheer, unadulterated horror. She was no longer the queen of the HOA. She was just a woman facing ruin. The immediate fallout was swift and decisive. The next morning, the city delivered the stop work order and a hefty initial fine. The photos and reports I'd compiled were unimpeachable. The remaining honest members of the HOA board, bolstered by the outrage from other homeowners, immediately called for an emergency meeting. Mrs. Henderson's two loyalists resigned in disgrace. She herself was stripped of any informal power and faced calls for her removal from the community entirely if she didn't comply. The HOA's new legal counsel, whom I had quietly pre-vetted, sent her a formal notice. Demolish the structure, restore the common area, pay all fines, or face a lien against her property, and direct legal action from the HOA. She had sunk over $500,000 into a monument to her ego, and now it all had to go. Update 1. 3 weeks later, the demolition has begun. The expensive stone gazebo is a pile of rubble. The koi pond is being drained, the liner removed. Her landscapers, no doubt grumbling, are tasked with reversing their work. She tried to fight it, of course, consulting her own lawyers, but my case was airtight. The city, the state environmental agency, and the HOA were all aligned against her. She faced a mountain of fines and a guaranteed loss in court. She's quiet now, avoids eye contact. The air of superiority has evaporated, replaced by a pinched, resentful expression. Update 2. 2 months later. The common area has been mostly restored. It's not pristine yet, but the environmental experts are supervising the replanting of native species. The HOA has levied its first assessment against her for the remediation costs, a staggering sum that nearly matches what she paid for the original construction. Her house has been subtly put on the market, but the disclosures required by the city and HOA regarding the past violations, fines, and ongoing environmental restoration efforts are a major black mark. Her property, once the envy of the neighborhood, is now viewed as a financial liability. Her beautification efforts have tanked her own property value. Update 3. 6 months later, Mrs. Henderson's house finally sold, and for significantly less than she paid, even before considering the fines and demolition costs she absorbed. She moved out, apparently to a much less exclusive community where, I heard through the grapevine, she tried to pull a similar stunt with a shared driveway and was immediately shut down. My backyard is quiet again. The floodlights are gone. The wetland buffer is recovering beautifully. The new HOA board has, unsurprisingly, adopted a much stricter stance on bylaws and enforcement. My sanctuary is restored. Sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous.